Surf Splendor.
So when it happened, my stepdad, who I was super close to, passed away on like 5 weeks prior to that. So he was just like a dad to me. So I was dealing with my mom. She was shocked. He died loading the car with my mom on the way to come to my cabin for New Year's, like they always do. Like we celebrated New Year's with the family together at my cabin.
You just had a heart attack?
He had a heart attack that morning, getting ready to drive up. So I was dealing with my mom a lot. Then I went to Japan to clear my head. I actually went to Japan with Jerry Lopez and a couple snowboarders and did backcountry for a week out there to clear my head, which was good. But then as soon as I landed and got in customs, I had a million text messages like, hey, where are you? The whole neighborhood's on fire, da-da-da-da. So go straight up there. I had to stay in Bishop. They had the whole neighborhood closed off. And then first they thought, there's a hotline number like, hey, your house made it. But I lived on a slope. My garage was up high, which looks like my house, and my house is below. And so then for 2 days while I'm in Bishop waiting for them to let us in, I thought, all right, my house survived. And then they let me in. I'm driving in. It was like, apocalypse. Just all the families in front of there's 40 houses burned down in my neighborhood. Everyone with their hand on their face crying. It was just like a horror movie, and it looked like Mars. I mean, this fire, they said it was one of the gnarliest wildfires ever in California history. And then I finally get to my house, and it wasn't there. And this is my sanctuary, I worked so hard in my life. Actually had a shaping room there. I kept all my belongings up there. And I've, going back since I was 2, I've lived palm trees of pine trees my whole life. The mountains are just, I'm an orophile. I love the mountains, so it makes me tick. So yeah, I was like, wow. And so that happened, and I'm like, well, how the hell did it start? And then everyone's climate change, global warming, which, I believe in all that stuff, but I don't believe that's what ignites things. So I got dirty. I'm like, I'm going to find out how this started. So I was hearing rumors it was a power line. And, okay, well, how does a power line fall down? I'm doing more research, and come to find out that, from everything I did, 70% of all wildfires are caused by utilities and electrical stuff, power lines. I'm like, all right. So then I was talking to a couple fireman friends, and then, I was like, well, I'm going to find the origins of it. Well, remember the movie Erin Brockovich?
Of course.
So I was basically Erin Brockovich in this neighborhood, and actually even got to talk to her.
No way.
And I'm like, this is war. I'm going to take these motherfuckers on. And ended up finding out that, there's a whole movie on that whole Sierra. All our water comes from the Sierra, and is when, the rich and powerful would steal, land from the farmers and the ranchers so LA could get water, right? DWP, the movie with Jack Nicholson, Chinatown.
Yeah.
So I was living it for real. So I'm like, I watched the movie, and I'm like, fuck these guys. I'm going to get them. So I did a bunch of research, ended up found a CAL FIRE report warning them to trim a tree down. Latitude and longitude coordinates, exactly where the fire started. There's a dead tree, blew over in the wind, grabbed the power line. We were in a drought that year. It was in February 6th. There's no snow on the ground. The worst wildfires to have in California is actually in the wintertime, not the summertime, because we have a perennial native plant base here. Everything goes dry. It's not because it's global warming. It's not raining. No, our plants dry out in the winter. What's worse than a fire than dry grass? Blew 9 miles in my neighborhood. There's only 90 homes in my neighborhood. It wiped out 41 of them, counting mine. Let's go. And then I was hustling again. I was again first house. Like, fire happened February 6th, broke ground on my house May 8th, moved back in it Monday before Thanksgiving, cleaned everything. I was the first house done by like almost a year. Hustling. Wanted to get my mom in there for Thanksgiving. She just lost her love of her life, I was like, and we celebrate Thanksgiving. I told the contractors, you want to work for me? Ended up being that contractor I hired had a liking for me because when he was a kid, he worked at Clark Foam. So I did more research. I started interviewing lawyers, and more or less was kind of the guy representing the neighborhood and doing all the research and feeding all the info to the lawyers. I felt like I was doing all their work sometimes, and ended up suing the city of Los Angeles because they're the ones that owned all the land, which they also own DWP. I sued DWP, Southern California Edison, and a tree trimming company that didn't do their job. And then I have, you know, surfing's and building surfboards. One thing is crazy is the amount of like amazing people we get to meet, from celebrities to athletes to big wig entrepreneurs to just all kinds of people. So ended up having some friends in entertainment business and over at Vice and stuff, started pitching stories to them. And I was suiting up, going to the Superior Court in LA, representing my neighborhood. I mean, think about like the lawyers they had.
Oh yeah.
Perfect hair. I mean, they all look like senators. Gold watches, suits. It was so intimidating. And they were just playing every game they could to push this thing back. And, you know, I'm still running my business. At the time, I had like 24 employees at Moonlight, and then I was going up there every other week. I only hired 2 guys to build my house, and then I was doing a lot of the work myself too. So I was going up there every other, I mean, it was crazy. And going in these court things with all these gnarly lawyers. So finally they were trying to say that the courtroom wasn't big enough so they could just buy more time. And then what I'm learning is and then all of a sudden more and more fires started breaking out. And then those Malibu fires broke out. Boom, power lines. Ventura fires broke out. Boom, power lines. I was so pissed off at Yvon Chouinard. Mr. Environment, right? Like, really one of the gnarliest voices of all, like getting all of our generation to be in an environment. Why the hell wasn't he speaking out on the power lines? There's nothing more toxic on this planet than a wildfire. Think of what it burns. There's no more CO2 emissions than from a wildfire. So I got passionate about this. So here I am fighting for the environment, but then getting a fight with the environmentalists is like, well, you guys keep talking about fucking straws. Why aren't you talking about power lines and wildfires? Like, I got really passionate about it and started pitching stories. And I was writing letters to CNN, Fox News, 60 Minutes, Vice, HBO, and all but 2 came back to me like, hey, we're interested in your story. Then the Maui fires, power lines. They're all power lines. If they're not power lines, they're a dumbass. And I think it's like 8% is lightning. That's the only natural way, right? So I took on these guys. I went in the courtroom. They're saying, oh, this courtroom's too small. There's not enough electric outlets. And then one of the guys had a wise comment and said, he's like, this is a fire hazard in here. It's just not enough room. I'm like, I just like slammed the table. I'm like, ah! Judge's like, Mr. Christenson, do you have something to say? I'm like, oh, now all of a sudden they're worried about fire hazards? Really? So judge goes, all right, I think this will work. We're still on trial for the trial on July 24th. I knew they were going to settle on the courtroom footsteps. It's like, does anyone else have anything to say? I go, yes. Okay, Mr. Christensen, what would you like to add? I go, I'd like to bring media here. Okay, so the whole thing was like, is there enough room in this courtroom? There's a little area in the corner. I go, you'd like to bring media? I go, yes, I would. I'd like to bring 2 agencies. I got Vice and HBO that want to come here. And he's like, and all of a sudden all the lawyers just like, who the fuck is this guy? He's like, okay, Mr. Christensen, where you see him going? I go, I can put 2 right there and 2 right there. I don't see that being an issue. And there's an outlet in each corner for their cameras. No big deal. I don't see a problem like that. This meeting's adjourned. Trial set July 24th. 3 days later, they settle with us.
Wow. For the all 41 neighbors?
And it wasn't much money. I mean, what's worse, there's like 3 things. There's only a couple things worse than burning someone's house down, in my opinion. A, you killed someone, or B, you permanently disabled someone, right? Throw theft in there too, and you burn their house down. Like, the amount of money we got, it was basically they're maxing on their insurance, so it didn't cost them anything. I wanted to go to trial, and I was trying to tell the neighborhood, but you know, there's a lot of older people that are like, we just want this over with. And it wasn't much. It was just like what our insurance didn't cover. I got some money for my trees. It wasn't like...
Wasn't a life-changing amount of money.
Nah, it wasn't. I mean, it was a chunk, but it wasn't like...
Yeah.
You know, like... Yeah, wouldn't near what you'd think.
Well, when you hear the Aaron Brockovich story or whatever, it's... Yeah. It's
So then, you know, now I got real passionate about it. So now when I see wildfires on the news, I'll take the day off work, get in my car, go in those neighborhoods, go door to door, give people my number and say, hey, happy to walk you through this, tell you what to expect, what not to expect.
Crazy. What a story, man.
Yeah. But I'm still like, you know, here we are talking about surfboards, toxics and all this. Nothing irks me more than people that are such advocates of the environment that why they can't speak out on wildfires. And what's crazy, when these wildfires happen, turn on the TV and watch what all the advertisements are. SDG&E, SCE, all the power companies, all of a sudden. Why? To shut the news up.
Yeah.
And then you can't really, I mean, who knows? I might get sued in this podcast. I don't give a fuck. You can't talk about it because they settle on the courtroom footsteps, and then you look at the fire. Mine was a round fire. You look it up. It says still under investigation because it's settled. That's their trick.
Got it. Yeah, well, when you say it pisses you off that nobody's talking about it, is nobody knows that it's as big of an offender.
I do, and I twice a year I dedicate. I'll do, for a while I was getting real vocal on my social media, but then you can see it when people unfollow you, and I'm like, whenever I do it, hundreds of people would unfollow me. Then people chime in, what the fuck, stick to what you do, just build surfboards.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah,
whatever.
Surf Splendor.